So here we go again, impeaching Donald Trump. Most Democrats and even some Republicans support it this time. They say Trump incited the violence on January 6th at the Capitol. But have you noticed that they don't really point to anything in particular that he said? I actually read the entire transcript of Trump's speech on that day. At 2 points, he mentions everyone going up to the Capitol. Almost halfway through his speech, he said this, quote, "We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." Unquote. That is about as clear as it can be. That was about halfway through the speech. Then at the end, after he said that the best days for America are ahead of us, he said this, quote, "So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give." The Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you. Unquote. Now, does that sound like someone who was trying to incite violence? Of course not. The Democrats' argument is that he didn't come right out and directly call for violence, but by pushing the false notion that he lost the election because of fraud is what caused it. Okay, let's pretend for a moment that the election rules in about 24 states were not changed unconstitutionally to allow votes that wouldn't normally be legal to be counted. Let's say there wasn't any evidence of electioneering. Let's forget that we've seen videos of poll watchers being denied doing their duty. Let's imagine that there wasn't one person who swore in an affidavit that they witnessed fraud take place. And let's act like the Dominion voting system wasn't hacked during a Georgia Senate hearing. Got that? Forget everything you've seen. Now, if Trump went out there and completely made up a story about voter fraud, it still would not be a crime. That precedent has already been set. That's exactly what Democrats did during the 2016 election. They completely made up the Russian collusion hoax and then convinced millions of people that Trump was a traitor and that he was an illegitimate president. That was a lie, and it has been proven to be so. So why hasn't anyone gotten in trouble for that lie? In 2018, Nancy Pelosi was talking about immigration and actually said this, quote, "I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be," unquote. So what's the definition of an uprising? It's an act of resistance or rebellion, a revolt. Synonyms are rebellion, revolt, and get this, insurrection. Of course, besides a few Republicans who called her out, nothing was made of it. It was no big deal that the most powerful Democrat in America was wondering why her supporters haven't revolted against the federal government yet. And now she's going to lead the charge to impeach Trump for inciting violence when he clearly told protesters to be peaceful. Famous liberal constitutional lawyer and Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz has it right. He says that the president, like anyone else, is protected by the First Amendment, and that impeaching him over this would set a terrible precedent. The sad part is that that precedent would really only be bad for conservatives because we're the ones who mostly care about free speech. That's why Parler, a free speech social media platform, is considered a conservative platform, and it's why the left are trying to destroy it. Have you seen this meme? It has 4 quotes from 4 Democrats that seem to be calling for violence. It's been going around Facebook, but it comes with one of those fact-check warnings. It links to a PolitiFact article that claims that it's mostly false. I want to focus on the quote from Kamala Harris. She did an interview with Stephen Colbert last June at the height of the George Floyd protests and riots, and she said this, quote, "This is a movement. I'm telling you, they're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day," she said. And everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up and they should not, and we should not, unquote. Then PolitiFact points out that over 2 months later, on August 27th, Harris said in a speech that she supports peaceful protests. Quote, "We should not confuse them with those looting and committing acts of violence," unquote. When Harris did that interview, we were having riots that saw hundreds of federal buildings get damaged and hundreds of police officers get injured. There were 24 people killed in the civil unrest. And those leftist mobs caused a couple $2 billion worth of property damage. That's billions with a B. And PolitiFact had to grab something from a speech Harris gave 2 months later to show that she only supports peaceful protests. But Donald Trump, in the speech that's in question, called for peaceful protests, and they want to impeach him for it. Let me quote it again. Quote, "We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated." Lawfully slated. "I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." Unquote. It does not get any clearer than that. And if Nancy Pelosi had any interest in healing this nation, she would squash this impeachment effort immediately. But she's not going to, because the bigger they can make this, the more they can attack anyone who doesn't agree with their political views. As we've talked about so many times before, everything is political with the Democrats. And staining Trump with another impeachment will create more division in our country and embolden Democrats to try harder to shut down people with opposing views. And that's why the big banks now feel empowered to freeze political donations and threaten to blacklist pro-Trump politicians. Don't get it twisted. This is not about what happened at the Capitol on January 6th. Just like the first impeachment, it doesn't matter that there hasn't been an impeachable offense committed by the president. This is just an opportunity. For Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, it's just politics. And that's the simple truth. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to become a supporting member of Blue Collar Logic, click on the link in the description and give what you can.